Okay, with the circuit all finished, I figured I'd show you how I intend on reinstalling this. I kind of rethought it a little bit better than what I did with the right-hand one. I'm still doing the same method of using zip ties wrapped through the circuit board to actually hold around these three light pockets. But I used different kind of screws to do it. So first thing, I added some Velcro padding here, and I ran out of the real soft kind, so I just put the rougher kind here just to give some kind of padding for the circuit whenever it's there. And there were little plastic tabs molded to these little cups. There were 3 on the full ring and 2 on the half ring that went through the holes, and they were actually like molded to the lens. So I drilled them off, and to actually refasten this, what I did was I trimmed them off a little flat. I took a pocket knife and stuck it right dead center, and then just wound a little like divot into it, and then took a 5/64 drill bit and just bored down through, so that way I could get a screw down in there. I think this one here you can actually sort of see I poked through the reflective face a little bit, but that doesn't really matter. You're not actually going to see it, and it's not going to affect the properties of it. But once I drilled those straight down through, I took a slightly smaller screw from what I found and actually wound it down in to flare out the plastic a little bit, and that just that treated the hole for these little guys that I'm going to stick in there to mount it. So yeah, we're going to stick the circuit in now. The first thing will be the half ring, and hopefully you can see this. So the zip ties are through the holes of the circuit board that were already provided just based on what one I bought, and I stuck this little piece of Velcro pad on top just to keep anything on here protected from anything on my circuit. But these zip ties just wrap around the lens cups like you see there, and you can see the circuit's kind of like nestled on this padding here. So that way whenever I tighten this down, it'll hold everything in there without moving around. You can see the circuit's kind of just floating in there. So once I line up the tabs here, okay, take my screws and put them in. The LEDs don't have to be like perfectly centered in the pockets, but as long as you got them mounted ideally, they should shine pretty good. So that's actually down there pretty good. Then before I forget about it, I'll stick this little side marker light down in. That thing was actually held in by a piece of tape before, so I could take some electrical tape and stick it on there. And I gotta find that stuff. Where is it? It's a little bit harder with the camera mounted to me. Alright. Doesn't have to be super crazy because the little tab here that broke off whenever I cut this off, this will actually hold that down in there once I tighten everything. Once I tighten everything down through here. So half ring's on, the little side marker light's in. The circuit's in there. You got to make sure that the little harness wires here actually clear this little mounting tab, which it should. It actually does fit in there pretty well, but just don't want to pinch any of my wires that I added here. Definitely make sure this is towards the center, because this actually comes right up through and then connects to the adapter plug, and that connects to the car harness. So let's align the full ring. Let's see. A little hard to twist with these bunches of wires that I have now, so I have a bunch of them. Okay. Oop. Found my screw. thing you'll notice, I have a microfiber cloth under here, so that way it doesn't like scuff up my lens. It's not like it's like glass or anything, but any little mistake can actually put scuffs easily into it, so better be safe. Okay. Back that one up a bit. Make sure I can get this far side in. Wish I would have trimmed this back a little bit further, but I can still get in there. Did make it hard to drill that out. Nah, we're in. I think. Or did I? Nah, I missed it. Ah, you suck. Just gotta be careful I don't drop it down the lens. It's not that bad to recover, but okay, I angled it wrong when I put it in there. There we go. Okay, awesome. These don't have to be super tight, just as long as this thing doesn't rattle in here. This was the harder process because they made this so you don't like tear it apart and put it back together. This thing was pretty much designed to where if it fails, you throw it out and buy another one. Okay, I think we're good with that. Before I actually put the back on, I do want to take it out to the car and just test it one time before I actually assemble it. So might do that, but the main idea is the back cover I cut off will fit right down in where I cut, and then you pretty much just use these screws to tighten this down against this inside lens where you have the original screw tabs, and that'll pull the lens up, pull this down, and allow you to put a bead of silicone around it. And even before tightening it down, you got to make sure that this can actually come up through this hole. So probably be a good idea to put it on and then pull this up through, because this little guy plugs into there and then twists. But I'll be back with more video. I just got to go test this in the car. This thing works perfectly in the car, so now I just need to get it back together. So I showed you mounting everything before. So we're just going to take the piece that I cut off here and get it back on. So make sure the plug itself is in a decent location. So you should be able to get it through the main hole here, maybe. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so got that through. I actually cut this thing pretty well because that fits right back where it was. It's going to be a little hard because the lens on the inside wants to fall down, so your screws might not bite right away, but slide that in and see if it threads in. No, I totally missed it. So this is the hard part, although I can look down through there and watch it go into the tab. Maybe. Let's get that out completely and try again. Yeah, it's a process. Okay, I think I got it now. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so now I got the threads of the little tab in there, and it wants to lift up on the lens. So before I get too carried away, I want to get the other two threaded. So let's try that. There's one, and there's two. Okay. Actually, this one's going really smooth. The right-hand one was a little bit more of a hassle to get lined up. You can actually reach down through where the reverse light goes and pull it tight while you actually, or you pull the inner lens tight against the inside while you tighten these down, so that way it seats in there properly. And once you tighten these down, then you obviously won't have to hold it. Yeah, that's actually not bad. A little bit more torque on these. Nothing rattles. Okay, there's a little bit of movement down here, but that's just because there's missing material, but I don't want to tighten it super tight to where I strip out any material. Actually, that's feeling a little better. Yeah, it's as tight as it'll go. Okay. Yeah, I think that's as good as it's going to get. So yeah, other than a little bit of creaking, but that's just plastic on plastic, so... So yeah, I'm not going to put these little vents on yet, but they have like a little bit of foam or something down in there, but those just sort of fit down on here, and those are just like the ventilators, so these things don't condensate up, and there's 2 locations, so you'll notice why I went across here instead of cutting around here, but this would have been a really hard spot to get in between, so that's why I went down below the vent, and plus I wanted to keep this like main mounting part as part of the main housing, so that way I wasn't like weakening the actual mounting structure of this thing. But I'm not gonna show a video of like siliconing because it's easy. What I do is take a little zip bag and squeeze silicone into the bottom corner of it, and then I basically just use like a cake decorator. I snip the very end of it, so that way I have a real fine point, and it allows me to get down into these little tight places without having to deal with an actual caulking gun. So yeah, this is the main overhaul of it, really. So once I get this all sealed up, I'll get everything plugged back in and get it on the car.